Wow, got presentation slide some more. I don't have slide, you know.
Hey.
Oh my god,
Never mind, you got Instagram.
in time. Sue is in. Wait, wait.
Okay, I'll just hold on.
Yeah. Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Sue.
Oh, this is awkward.
Hi, Boke.
I think never mind lah. We just go on lah. Later we can talk to her. Yeah.
Okay.
Allow got cover page.
Sure. Okay. So thanks, Joey, for the invitation. So just a few things to make clear before I start is that this is a competition that I joined on my own. So as a disclaimer, it has nothing to do with WOHA. So, okay. Right, so I just got to start, right? This is a research competition that I just finished like a few months ago, 2 months ago, I guess. So it's a competition to design a dental center in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda.
Okay, sorry, I'm late. Oh, wait.
So, mute.
Okay. Hey, where's Jean?
The first thing you look for is,
Hello.
how about me?
Hey, don't interrupt, Hefference. Shh.
Okay, go on first.
Sorry, Hefference.
No worries. It's okay, it's all right. Settle down.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
So this competitions was actually it was initiated by these non-profit organizations called His Hand on Africa. So it's founded by these two doctors, Dr. Thomas Lee and Rita Lee, with the missions to provide a dental care to the less fortunate. So in this case, it's the country of Rwanda. So as a bit of facts here, right? So Rwanda's actually, for the whole countries, they only have 48 dentists there in a country of like 12 million people. So there is a very critical dental issue happening there right now. So the missions of this HOA is actually to help them and to improve the living conditions of this country. So and then in order to help the community there is not just by building dental clinics, but the clients see a bigger pictures of actually incorporating several components into the design. So they will have a dental clinics coupled together with your training institutes to train the locals so that they are able to empower them to serve their own communities to improve their living standards. And also the fund that they get from the dental clinic will then fund the other community clinics together with the manpower that they are trained from the training institutes, and then to form which later on funds the mobile clinics. So it becomes like they are looking at the dental center like, I think, as a catalyst or a cause that create a perpetual cycle of self-sustaining dental healthcare rather than just a very typical buildings. So before I continue, right, I wanted to show you guys a videos on to have a better understanding on what do they do, and it's also where it inspired the projects from.
Cool. When you meant training means that you train them to be a dentist as well.
Sorry?
You mean you write that training institute means that you train them to be a dentist as well?
To have a basic dentist knowledge, dental care, not to the professional like a doctor and some things, but to have a basic knowledge so that they can Yeah.
stuff. Okay, that's cool.
So wait, do you guys see the videos?
No, I think when you share your screen, you need to
Okay.
share the screen instead of just
Right.
PowerPoint. Oh, cool.
See it?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, but you need to share the video, audio too, I think.
I need to
Oh.
share the audio also.
Right. So it's a very short video documentaries that was sent by the clients. So it's basically show the kind of things they are doing right there. So apart from those heartwarming moments, right? My takeaway from the videos is that there's a few things. First is that it shows a very unconditional efforts and love, compassions that they are trying to help the community with. That's the first takeaway. The second one is that there is actually a kind of like a lack of very good facilities for them to do their works. So as you can see, like videos, they have like very bad shelters, they have dark corridors, this kind of stuff. And not even to mention that some of the dentistry works actually carried out outdoors with the dust from the red soil and everything. It's kind of like imposing some hygiene issues as well when you're dealing with dentists in such conditions. And another important things that take away from the video is that there's a feelings of anxiety and uneasiness especially from the children, from the kids that go for the dental health care, because when something that it's quite rare in your countries with limited access to such healthcare, a dentistries, it kind of like it becomes an anxiety, it becomes a new space for them. So this concern actually inspires me of how do we create a space that is able to benefit them in such directions. So it comes back to the questions of how can we actually eradicate the anxieties of walking into a foreign space? How do we create a very welcoming areas that can that fits to the purpose of a healthcare, a refuge, a space that cares for the people. So the initial ideas that was these are actually the precedents that was provided by the clients. So the briefs they're asking for 3 separate buildings to fit all the spaces, and then to have a perimeter wall surrounding the design, the development. So from the precedent studies that they said, right, they're kind of like imagining a matrix of buildings dropped, like splitted on a landscapes, and then we have like a semi-outdoor waiting space, the kind of things, and a big bright interior space. But however, what I noticed is that doesn't gel with their missions, is that all the spaces are very segregated. The indoor is an indoor, and then the outdoor is outdoors, and in between space is just a waiting areas and stuff. So there's a very minimal interactions between all these like surrounding the users, the space itself. So it rather create a very big, cold, open environments that it kind of like a very typical healthcare facilities architectures. So, and then we start to look at the site. So the site itself is a slopey land. It's an 11-degree slope. So a few characters of the site is that it has a lot of eucalyptus trees. And then an important part is that there, next to our site, there is actually a big excavated plot for no other reasons. It's like it's left there and it's unused. So the locals, they just use that to play footballs. So that itself actually create a concerns of ground stabilities on it. And also on the site, the site is actually currently having a very free flow of movements. It offers this flexibility and porosities, and there's even some naturalized walkways that connects between the excavated plots, and next doors there is actually a primary schools. So this itself is sort of things that kind of like contradicts with what the initial pictures that the client have. Like imagine like having a big blocks of buildings that just plunge into these landscapes, and we perimeter it out so to like exclude everything out from the context. So this comes to the second question, like how can we actually eliminate all these imposing features like perimeter wall and so on to create a porous and welcoming space without compromising on security? So so with that 2 main questions in mind, right? So I believe that this project has the opportunity to not only become a test bed to answers to those two questions, but also offer an opportunity to further push the architectures to achieve a new innovations in terms of different several kind of perspective. So the first one is to try to tackle the architecture in terms of public's perspective. How does the architectures in line with HSOA visions to create a very welcoming gestures to the space, while keeping it practicality and functionalities? The space is very functional, programs, everything is very well planned, and so on. So another one is also it offers the opportunity to push the typological perspective of healthcare. So instead of very enclosed space that kind of create a hostility environments, or a space that's too open that you lost privacy. So it's an interplay of being enclosed but open at the same time, that it provides a refuge. At the same time, it's offered that privacy and the feeling of being protected. And also, I think architecture itself, especially Rwanda country itself, has a very strong identity to the nation itself. So how could the architecture also pushes a very non-cultural space, like a dental center, to offer that cultural or local identities to empower the locals, the communities, for them to be able to relate to them. So instead, I thought of architectures that doesn't really cancel out each other. It's not like choosing that I would like to go these directions and neglect the others, but an architectures that responds to all these different questions and different parties, and how it challenges and trying to bring everything up together in a space. So a little bit on the design process. So this is an existing site. There's an existing road and a new roads at the top of the hills, and then with an empty plot next door, with walkways and site porosity to it. So this is what the client asked for. It's 3 blocks of buildings on the site, and a perimeter wall surrounding it with 2 entrances. So the immediate things that we see is that this perimeter walls, although for practical reasons of securities and safety, is a bad I think it's a bad gestures when you have that abutting the streets, and especially when you're talking about all these the so-called football fields next doors and the schools at the other end. So the first solution is, of course, to lift the buildings up so we free the ground. But then, as I mentioned before, by raising the building on stilts, there's we don't have the budget to hire an engineer. So just making the assumptions that they might impose a ground stability issue to the next plot. And also, it's actually not a very user-friendly space when you're trying to lift everything out. And when you're talking about imposing, you're having a building like flying 2 stories above you might looks even more imposing. So how do we actually achieve a very porous and uninterrupted, unobstructed architectures? Is that the idea is to push the building down instead of going up. So by pushing the buildings down, you actually bring the space closer to the human eye levels, but human scales, and then you create no obstructions to the views and everything. And also you're able to create an interesting roof profiles that cover over the developments, and it basically replicates the existing contours profile of the site. So it's literally and figuratively down to earth. So with that with that direction set, right, then I also look into the architecture of therapies. How do we reconfigure the healthcare space? So instead of the 3 buildings that the brief asked for, and so 3 buildings. So we actually dissected the buildings into each space on its own building blocks by itself, and then to scatter around the site. So with these decisions, then each of the buildings, program, and functions is to be re-examined and to re-establish their relationships between each others. So it offers a more well-distributed human activities over the site, and also it offers a more efficient planning with co-sharing of space and stuff. So with these actions of just simply splitting up the programs, right, we create a lot of in between spaces. The outdoor courtyards that forms in between these blocks. So while although I understand the idea of having those 3 buildings actually offer some sorts of garden space, but that what's difference with these ideas of having smaller scale building is that it even segment the green areas into smaller pocket of space. So it's neither a very open space, but it's connected to the exteriors. At the same time, it offers some controlled level of privacy and to the patients and so on. So the space, although it's broken into smaller scales, it suddenly feels bigger when there's like side of greens and opens corners at every directions. So after I set in all the directions, the forms and everything, so it comes to the ideas of what determine the architectural language of this design. So I always believe that the architecture of familiarities could be a way to actually eradicate the fears. It's like imagines like everyone feel the most comfortable at their own place, at their workspace, at their homes, because they feel like they are in control of the space. They are familiar with the space itself. So I believe like this is a things that could be implemented into the architectures to create that sense of familiarities and something that will be able to calm the patients, to calm the locals, that they feel more at ease in this kind of space. So 2 components, the Imigongo patterns. Imigongo is actually a very famous art rooted to the Rondas communities. So the canopies that drapes over the dental centers will be designed in the Imigongo patterns. And this in the later slide, okay, there are more details in the later slides, but so, and then the other thing is the urban patterns of the Kigalis, the Rondas urban fabrics. Things is being replicated into this design. So this building is actually in a smaller scales in respects to the communities, so that it doesn't seem like an alien space that just comes into and conquers the landscapes, but it almost as if it's a extended street of the neighborhoods kind of things. So in this, right, with all this, I would say like the way how I would describe the design is that it's not trying to achieve a very strong ideas of of creating a space that is inspired by this and that, but it's actually a juxtaposition of narrative. It's many things that comes together and create a space that it's in a way, I mean, in local terms we call it rojak, but it's kind of like we are trying to it's a space that doesn't clearly define what it is and what should you do with it, but it's up to the users to come and interpret the space itself, how it establishes their interacts and establish the relationship with it, kind of things. So at the end, so it's become something like this. So this is looking from down the streets up, and that's the canopies that drip over the whole dental centers. So while it creates everything, it's sunken down and it creates no obstructions to the side and everything. But at the same time, even without a perimeter walls, but at the same time, it managed to achieve the security controls, because like no one's, unless you're gonna like dozen and jump down the retaining walls, else it's like there's no security issues. And also there's okay, this is a zoom in from the canopies. So it becomes like a porous layers of landscapes that goes over the dental center itself. And then there's walkways that tunnel in between these landscapes, and it connects the existing walkways for people to walk around and so on. And the canopies is actually planted with creepers and so on. So when you're looking from the inside atriums, right, so it becomes something like that. So the canopy itself is actually it's not just a decorative item. So if the canopy is designed in the Imigongo patterns, right, so it's just doubled as a structural post and beam structures, and this actually is kind of in a poetic ways. You can say like the space itself is designed according to a rondon geometries, rather than just a normal like 9x9 grids and so on. And the canopies with plants actually provide some shades and so cool the spaces and so on. And also looking from the courtyards, so like instead of a big chunk of space that the client initially imagines, become like a small like a village of Rwanda's village, and then interlocking with greens, parks, courtyards, and gardens all around the developments. So this is the sections, and you see like what we're trying to achieve is that to break out the space, so there is blurred, there is a more blurred boundaries between what is outdoor and what is indoor, what is public and what is private. There's like and there's a lot of like ramps, bridges, terraces, rooftops that connects to each others. And also one of my raised questions like, okay, currently about the walkways, it's designed such a way because the adjacent two plots is empty, but what if there's something that's being taken out by your neighbors and they build something there? So in that questions, what I'm trying to do is that to have the canopies being installed with detachable planters modules, so that when there's like neighboring buildings coming out, I mean, they can always reconfigure that walkways to fit the situations and so on. So this is another view looking in. So it doesn't create, it's not about creating a buildings, but creating an environment that more like ecosystems in which people can just walk around, play around, and then there's like multiple layers and a very volumetric circulation throughout the space. So greens and walkways here and there, so it create like a maze and a playground instead. So so this is how it looks like when it looks from that direction. So it creates a very very introverted space in which it's like it's not trying to, it's a very low profile space that not trying to block or not trying to shout, but at the same time it's something that it's stands out, and it's create the kind of like pride and a very welcoming, calming space at the same moment. So yeah, I think this, yeah, that, I mean, that's the last slide. So that's it for my short sharings. Thank you.
Awesome. Guys, any question? I think Hefference is open for any questions as well, right?
Yep. Anything.
Yeah. Before I share my. Hi, Lai Jing, you go.
I just wish like you remain some of the eucalyptus tree that you say was on the side. I just wish it remains, and somehow when you look at the building, you'll see like the whole canopy is like continuous instead of like, I don't know, but these only trees lah, which you can plant, I think.
Why want to remain?
Well, I think yeah, I mean like it's a I don't know, when we start designing, right, it's kind of like a hard decision to choose, because first, the site, it has plenty of eucalyptus trees, and it's almost impossible to have a efficient space without cutting down any one of them. So it's become decisions of like whether should we keep all, should we keep like part of it, or should we just replant it, and yeah, the kind of, I mean, yeah, I understand.
Megan, you have anything to share?
don't throw the spotlight at me. Anyway, actually, I have a very rookie question, but yeah, please don't judge me. But what do you use to render?
Oh my god, I wanted to ask that.
It's Lumion.
Oh my god, it's
Yeah,
wow.
it's
Lumion?
Plus Photoshop, right?
Yeah, plus Photoshop.
Ooh, okay.
Plant.
I think it's okay lah.
It looks like
The render is on point though. I think just to say.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's very crisp, right?
I think Jowin.
very white, right? Oh, the things, right?
Right?
Yeah, correct. And it's also very WOHA for sure.
Yeah, actually,
You already said disclaimer is not
Yeah, it's disclaimer.
related.
It's not. It's officially not part of WOHA's projects, but it could be.
Oh,
It could be influenced by WOHA's ideas.
actually,
good though, it's good.
I
It means you are
share.
taking what you can. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think what I'm gonna say, like, what I really like about the project, I think it has a bit of resemblance to the Ingalls Maritime Museum, where the entire museum is sunken down and the passenger ways is up on top, and also taking a bit of reference for Zaha Hadid's urban fabric, like the whole thing is going to the hill. I think it has certain poetic sense inside, but what can because I think the structure, the modular structure that you design above, I think is very cool. It's just that from the point of maintenance, I think it will be nice if you invent the entire system that the local will work for the maintenance as well. Because looking from it, the trees actually will take a lot of maintenance, right? I mean, the planter box above. I mean, without it, then the entire place will be very hard, isn't it?
Yes, and yes, the maintenance part is that it's not like trees that you need to frequently trim. It's more of like ferns and kind of shrubs and creepers and so on.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. So the second one is that if you look into some part of the sections, it's really like you notice like the canopy actually go low until it almost touches the roof.
Oh,
So some part is actually more accessible, and the walkways that actually run through the canopies actually have accessible to almost like 70 to 80% areas of the planters.
perhaps I think you must have thought of it like the interactions between the architecture and the users. So perhaps if the kids can actually go up to the creepers and maintain it or like play with it, I think they'll be add more value to it. But I mean, of course, I think the system itself is already very cool. Yeah.
Point taken.
No, chill, bro.
Okay,
Joyee?
I have a question.
Why is your
Uh,
background like that, man?
He's high as fuck.
It's
Has on
it's pandemic. It's pandemic now. Yeah. So my question is like, do you take in consideration of what kind of plants do you put in?
Sorry?
Do you take into consideration about what kind of plant do you put in?
It's
Like what
WOHA.
kind of plant?
It's confidential.
Not to
That's specific.
not
Yeah.
to the very detailed parts like the species, but more on the general scopes of what kind of or how the plants will look like, or what categories of the plants it is, rather than a very specialist as a very detailed species of it. So sorry.
You're thinking that the creeper won't grow.
No, I'm just like I've like because because Rawan like the second thing is about like I know like the brief is about the dental thing, about hygienic and dental and also knowledge, but it's like this is like a bit side topic. It's like because Rwanda is still considered like a low income country. They only have like 9.5 billion GDP per year, and 63% of them are still living in poverty. Like, do you think like sort of architecture intervention, right, could actually help them generate income as well, so that it could actually it become a sort of like a prototype that help them generate the gross income for them to improve economy? Because right now, if I look at the architecture and versus context, not only the building itself, but versus the social context, it sort of it still have a big gap. One is like we still have a shiny hardwood timber imported inside to construct the building, and the other side, opposite of the city that you're showing, is still living in sort of slum conditions. So I think like the planting idea is really interesting, is very good, but if you have a specific system, like specific plants like to plant in, right, become a sort of like a low cost agriculture, it could help them foster another system. So it becomes like it's like you have this hygiene going down that foster a more knowledge-based system, knowledge-based economy, and above is foster back what they already have, the agriculture. Right now it's like most of them is like I think over majority of the economy are generated from the agriculture part, and it's very low income right now because there's no the is quite slow. So I'm just like curious, like if you have any plans to sort of expand it into something that it could be more systematic, that could help the Rwanda its economy as a whole. Yeah, I'm not sure whether this project is like from UN, United Nation, or from UNESCO. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I agree that the project is not it's not from UN or UNESCO or anything. It's actually a private clients for that.
All right.
I agree with the ideas of giving back to the socio-economic directions, on top of just a very contextually architectures. It's also you also need to consider the things about the how to say the publicness of the buildings. So at the end of the day, it's still a private dental centers. So it has to limit the, I mean, it has to offer that welcomeness, but at the same time, if there is a way to controls the public's interactions with the buildings, even after its operational hours, that could be a good way to implement those things so that the buildings can function by itself with the local community.
All right.
Jowin,
What do you think if we?
sorry, go ahead.
What?
No, go ahead.
What do you think? What do you think? Do you think is there possibility to integrate technology inside rather than having the locals to actually farm the place? You have this sort of self-sustaining farming, like artificial intelligence that help you to do the farming thing. Do you think is that possible in Rwanda? Because the thing is, I guess it's just a conundrum, like most like private projects, it's like we have this constraint of like limiting severe public to interact with the space, the premise, right? And the concern is like the outsiders are going in and without care. One of that and security problem, right? But if we look into applying technology like automations, right? So then the sort of private space become on top of the private space, it become a sort of like a automated economic generating machine. So it become this money become the sort of like, you know, like what the US government and also like Malaysian PR team, they are giving back us. It's like a monthly universal basic income. So this money basically you don't need to work for, but this sort of big machine, it helps you to deliver the goods. It helps you to actually keep the thing in certain condition. Then it also control the use, the outsider use of it. So it's only operating in the morning. At the night, right, it's still operating on its own, like based like using technology. You got what I mean? Do you think this is another possible
I don't know. I think that given the community, like you said itself, it's not that educated, perhaps not. It's like then when you give them such powerful tool, it often will go to misuse. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think the idea of automations and robots in this kind of like farming context, I think it works. It might work well when it is in a more controlled space and a more urban areas. So of course, with your automations, I mean, you save your maintenance from you save the cost from maintaining the farming, but then you spend your cost on maintaining the automations. But that I mean, like simple simple infrastructures like water sprouts or this kind of water control. I mean, this is applicable to that, but I don't think like for this context, it can go to the extent of automations. And also about the ideas of urban farmings and so on, it's like if you goes to Singapore's Funan shopping centers, there's actually a rooftop. There's actually a rooftop gardens there, but it's
successful.
Sorry?
You think they're successful?
No, that's very fair. So, so the idea is that because there's no communities that claim that space, so there's no peoples that are responsible and feel the need to take care of that space. So the idea of, and then it's a little bit different from Malaysia's. I think I'm not very familiar. I think the what kebun bangsas or some. I think OUGs have some community planting as well. But those things, it's yes, they happens at a populated residential areas. So it empowers the communities that live among them to make use of the public spaces of that. So it's very case dependent. Like in this project case, it's the areas, it's not so much of residential areas, and then furthermore it's on top of private properties. So more deeper thoughts has to be given to ensure that if such public run urban farming thing has to go on in this space.
But I agree with Jowin's point just now, saying that it somehow, although it looks, I mean, the design, it has a lot of woods, but in a way that it's still quite glaring. I think I don't know how to put it, like as compared to the local vernacular architecture. So perhaps changing the material, making it more vernacular, is another way of creating familiarities to the users, so that it, in a way, it might help to shorten the gap between the two different buildings. Yay!
Sue,
Yep.
Wow.
Yo,
Sue,
stop.
yo, Sue. It's long
I'm
time no
sorry.
see. Ah.
This sudden transition to small talk though.
Long time no see.
Jowin. Wait.
How are you?
Okay. Wait, I got a question.
Oh,
Two
You
or two.
hand sketch the stuff, I mean the diagram. Is it,
Sorry,
huh?
come again?
Huh?
Come again?
Sorry, did you hand sketch the diagram? Just wondering.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
It's sketched using tablet, so it's kind of like hand digitally sketched.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So these people, you know who's the Yasu right now?
Sorry? What?
Nothing. It's good to ask. Like what else? Before we move on.
Did you have to do like a detailed like planning like plan drawing to submit? Just wondering.
For this one?
Yeah.
Was
it?
I think yes and
Oh.
Jowin?
yes and no. I mean, like, I broke a lot of rules in these competitions, to be honest. So they actually asked for quite a detailed plans and so on. But I mean, I do submit plans, but it's more of a design and the kind of flavors. So yeah. I mean, there's a lot of
good. It's
there's
good.
a lot of requirements. Yeah, I mean, like coming from architecture is kind of like what stated is the brief. I just refer it to like 50%. The other 50% just back only.
Cool.
Right, Francis always say break the rule, challenge the authority. That's my
Who is Francis?
Francis,
Yeah.
making your life very difficult. Okay, without further ado, we spent 1 hour on first person.
Yeah, man. It's okay. We got all the time in the world.
It's awesome.
I'll be very quick.
No worries.
No,
I'll be very quick.
2 hours.
I don't think you can.
No, it's gonna be very quick. I got nothing to show.
Your show.
Supermarket typology.
Oh yeah.
Share screen.
Finding where the share screen thing. Where's the
On
share
top.
screen thing? There's nothing on top where.
Introduce.
On the bottom.
Introduce.
Oh yeah.
Share screen.
Oh, it's really
Oh,
damn
well.
burnt.
Are you going to start really soon?
I'm finding the
Johnny's like
button.
going to toilet and shit.
Oh, I go toilet first. Go toilet first. I'm still.
Toilet break ah.
Toilet break.
Okay, okay. It's in the middle, right? Join the.
She just went into the beach.
Wait, I can't share, right?
Yeah, just now, so she's like going to the beach, going to
Going back to a resort. Wait,
Uh,
I don't have that. Wait,
No.
hold on. Wait, hold on.
alternate S.
Alternate. I'm using a Mac though. Fuck.
I use Mac lah.
Okay, I'm trying.
You can share screen or you can just share the.
Oh, okay. It's middle. Yeah, sorry. Wait, let me.
Yeah.
Wow, like coming back from the sea.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Chill. Wait, it's not coming out. Wait, hold on.
Supermarket typology. Megan, you are in KL or Germany now?
Germany.
Oh. 超市
Can you see Can you
Can.
see or not?
超市研究.
Okay, so yeah, as you all can read.
You want some
okay, so basically, wait, hold on. So okay. Alright, so this is like a sort of like a initiative I started. It's sort of like an open archive, open research to investigate the sort of open context of supermarkets, and it has been this thing didn't start just because of the pandemic. It was just lucky it hit right on the pandemic. Yeah, I started this I think I started this initiative when during I think last Christmas, not last year, December, where I was like I was visiting quite a lot of supermarket to get like Christmas food and all sort of things that you do during Christmas. So I was thinking like this is a supermarket it has been playing a sort of very interesting role for quite a long time since the modernist era, which it supplies like the important needs to the family. And yeah, and secondly, it was due to like because my father is in this sort of research as well. He's in like fast moving consumer goods, yeah, things like this. So it didn't become quite serious until this pandemic happened. It was just like a hobby, collecting images of supermarkets because I love to shop in supermarkets. And after that, I see it as a quite important thing when there's like countries start to declare lockdowns and also start to politicking other countries about supplies. I look into all these things that we need, and also I witnessed the sort of short supplies of toilet rolls and many stuff in London before I came back. It was quite scary. And so if you read this, this is an open research that we hope that it would help everyone to investigate further the politics of it, design systems, situated technologies, architectural spaces, etc. related fields have in so far played an important role in shaping this microcosm that is important to us. This archetype is a social space for survival, and space that strengthens international diplomacy. So the thing about supermarket is like its own ecosystem. So we look into like a mall. anytime you run into that place during any situation, you can actually survive in that place for quite some times. And also international diplomacy between countries. As we know, most of the economies are not mainly controlled by politics, are mainly controlled by the transnational companies, corporate right now. As simple as looking at Facebook as one example. Facebook is an internet company, but you look at Facebook as an example to set a big trend into this consumer market. It is a big market. It's a big economy segment that you have. And today, and second, and apart from that, today we have witnessed the changes introduced by the big techs, such as like if you look at Amazon and Alibaba, they have this manless shopping system, and I think there's a few of them in Shanghai. And the readiness has led us to a future where our daily necessities may be prescribed by a machines learned algorithm. With the accelerated speed of development, products could be synthetically produced with local-made materials. Have we arrived at the verge to think about how this archetype may behave? So this we look into. I look into the influence of technology, automations, and the invention of like a small recently they called it impossible meats, where you could create like artificial meats in the lab using GMO systems. And also and also prior to that is to look into the shortage of masks, shortage of masks and sort of all these consumer products. So why do I say with local made materials and development? Because like when US are declaring like the CAF and UK declaring, all these developed countries declaring they have insufficiency of masks and all these resources, Vietnam is actually doing something else. Vietnam was taking the guideline of a mask from CDC. Eventually, they produce on their own right away, right after their lockdown, which is when they still only have 50 cases of infected patients at that time. So, allowing to this sort of things are playing sort of the interplay of it are sort of changing the role that we have right now. And as we know, it's not a rigid archetype, as it has a rather flexible microcosm that is constantly shaped by the laws of the free markets, right? And artificial climate determined by the stock market and the market rationale, which is the capitalism and neoliberalism itself. For that reason, it succumbs to the constant technological advancement. It has no resistance to any technological advancement. It goes within it. There's no respect to the one who used it, because it's based on income. It's based on the ROI of the company, okay, and also the revenue. So from how to capitalize our taste buds, changing our habits and saving the world from climate change. So normally how big companies they sort of make us into change our behavior is through like through food is through taste buds. They call it taste capitalism, which you can see. I mean, McDonald's is a very good example. Every country has McDonald's. If you look at even in supermarket, if you can look at Coca-Cola, every place you have Coca-Cola, right? So it's a way to train your loyalty to the company, where you go there, you spend for a company, and you shape our behavior, our cultural image, right? So moving next. So this is an open archive. This is an open archive as well, as I'm still just starting to document this, like from like this to mark like this period of time, like the 21st century, until maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years from now. So this is an open archive that we seek to document all the different archetypes that deal with the purchase and supplies of daily necessities. It's like a bottom up approach, and also top down as well. And it is hard to ignore that supermarket, market and non-markets and mini markets and etc. plays a vital role in international diplomacy that shapes the global political economy. And because of that, it also shaped the biological state of the living things. Like the more they produce, the more we consume, and the more they ship the products in a global trend. It shapes the way we live on the earth, and as it shapes the climate, we move to different directions, right? And And next thing is because this is sort of like open archive and open research, it is open for contributions. It's not like it is the initiative that I started, but I need community to sort of take part in it, so that the research can be sort of the ownership of the research can be anyone to sort of chip in this sort of, I call it the longevity of research, which architecture field have this problem, like we do have a longevity of research. A lot of that are art-based and very short term, mostly are pet projects. Once you finish it, you're done, right? So it's open for contribution from international and local as well, as much as the whole world want to see the difference between the trades, the difference between how the supermarket arrange the stuff, how the supply chain works, right? So what are the things we are documenting here, right? So like supermarkets, mini markets, e-supermarkets, like apps and platform supermarkets like Amazon and GrabMart, and also Whole Food and HelloFresh, and also some wet and dry market. But the priority now is supermarket and also the platform supermarket, which is a very big topic right now. And what are we actually looking into in this? The reach of space. How do we pay? How do we use the space, the sort of archetype in the sort of things? And then the arrangement of spaces play an important role as well. As we know, why the arrangement of spaces in the supermarket is the main protagonist of the whole architecture, because the arrangement of space influence the way we spend, the way we buy stuff, the way we eat. So and also the income of the whole market, sustainability of the market. So if I put example of 7-Eleven, the most revenue earned from the 7-Eleven is actually the counter that have all the sweets. It is the main ROI of the return on investment of the whole shop, like condoms, things like this, because these are things that you wouldn't think of when you buy like things from the list. So they earn from the thing out of the list because you tend to buy more. It's a very fast consumer behavior that you have. And thirdly, is arrangement of products. By arrangement of products, we see the dominance of the supply chain, and also the companies play a big role in the market itself. Is this company being a big role in the country? We have to look into the arrangement of products. But all these are not new. But I think for myself, it's like I'm still new to it, so I need to start investigating this as well. And so produce a more community-friendly paper that everyone understands it, so that it can develop. But this all might become something obsolete in maybe 10 years' time, right? The arrangement, due to like Amazon have this sort of tracking system, you don't certainly have a very specific place product to define the role of the products. So what are we looking into? Also looking into packaging and informations, product informations on the packaging and manufacturing informations. This part tell us the detailed part of the nutrients that we are consuming in this generation. So we could know it's like where our biological state heading to, where are we, how are they shaping us, and also manufacturing informations. How much of them are locally produced using license. So. And next thing are security technologies like CCTV, price tag sensors, automated counter, and payment machine, etc. So situated technologies are not something new, because as simple as that, price tags are all technologies, right? But today we have something much more significant is sensors. Much more sensors are tracking our movement. Especially China, you have that. Like if you go to a shop in Toys R Us and even IKEA, I think they have it a long time ago. They can actually know how do you travel the space and how do you look at things. And this play an important role to shape the space, whether the space could be more instantly or being rigid. That is why it's not a rigid element anymore. And lastly is that what are we looking into as well? The digital market, the reach out interactions that we buy things now. How are we buying things? Is it through physical or through the screen itself? If you buy through screen, it's a different way of nudge that we have, the architecture that we understand. It's the WOHA architecture that we go into, and the UX and UI design, it will define the virtual architecture it works, because architecture, in my terms, is an interface between society and another member society. and also interface between a community to another community as well, and also advertisements. Advertisements play an important role in knowing how they, because since physical things are being evaporated into this virtual world, packaging doesn't play a big role anymore. So this will be so decentralized into become more advertisement based, like a billboard based online. So this will let us know how are they actually approaching us, and how many of media company are shipping the sort of are intentionally shipping the space like beside us. And to submit is easy. Just email me or just like DM to the Instagram. And content requirement is a location and description captions, so that we can easily like profile it if they have enough content. And of course, we are looking for anyone, including like something that you find might be interesting to contribute in this sort of research that I'm starting. So I will just show you, like briefly show you the so this is, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the thing I started last year, but it's private and it's kind of in a very idle stage for like I think 3-4 months. And now I've started to actually document it. So I started to document from France. Yeah, because I was in France, I saw there's a sudden movement of in British you have this Brexit, but in France you have this Frexit going on. When I was there, and it's interesting to see like how all these supply chain play an important role. How this big of big chunk of European will play a role. Even possible how they would separate themselves, because the whole supply chain are linked together, And this was like in a Chinese supermarket. It's one of the biggest Chinese supermarkets in France, in Paris. And yeah, it's owned by like a Vietnamese Chinese, Cantonese. So you can see like it also, I mean, from the supermarket itself, it plays like an epicenter to understand how the social, culture, and economic works as a whole, because it supplies is something that we need. Yep. And from France, I went, mostly I'm from France right now because I'm still documenting. And also it's like from like the arrangement of the IO and also the arrangement of products, how many of them are foreign, how many are named in the local language, right? And also the Bartlett as well, like more details ones. And also I collected some from Amsterdam, Albert Heijn Amsterdam. It's a local supermarket of I think it's a medium sized supermarket in Amsterdam. So in Amsterdam, you have a different approach of arranging like the pastry. They arrange the pastry by nationalities. So you have a Dutch pastry, you have Dutch, and then you have an English pastry. So it's very interesting to see all these things are being arranged in different way in different contexts. Yeah. And this is another one in Amsterdam, which is I think it's a German market. Yep. And also some is in London, more plain organic, which is a more organic based suppliers that they sell more on like separated forms of veggie instead of packaged like in Tesco. It's very different. So we have Waitrose. Waitrose is like, you have from supermarket, you have a different level of it. You have like the working class, you have the middle class, and you have the elite class. So Waitrose is considered between the middle and the high class, because it's much more expensive and the products are very different in Waitrose. And Sainsbury is the working class, that you can see things are much more packaged in a more industrial way than the others. So this makes me think is like, where are these supplies come from and where are the collection point? Because I think supermarket doesn't only consist of one market, it has a few collection point and packaging point, and it all located different region of the city and also probably different country. Like I think US would send chicken to China, and for China to pack and send back to US, because it's very cheaper to pack in US and England. This thing happens. So you farm a lot of chickens, but you don't pack in your country. Like Malaysia, okay, it's an example. We have a place called Parago. It's a chicken farm. We found a chicken, but me packing here is expensive, so we send it to Cambodia to send it back in like after like a few days from freezer. So it makes the cost cheaper, but the environment itself is gonna be very deteriorating. So yeah, and all these are religious documentation right now. I have nothing substantial to show you guys. There's no development in writings and so on. Yeah, so that's about it. Yeah, so that's about it. It's like, yeah.
I think it's very
Can I
interesting
ask
that
something?
a collaborative thing.
One by one.
What?
Okay.
Yeah. Who is asking now? Sue.
No, I mean,
Go first.
yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that it's like a collaborative sort of documentation.
Yeah.
But do you
Yeah,
plan
correct.
to like organize your sort of observations,
Yeah, I have to.
like archive? Yeah.
Yeah, I need to like profile it properly.
Mhm.
So you have a track record of the thing that people could access easily.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you get what I mean, right? Yeah. For right now,
Yeah.
it's just a start. I'm just like, yeah, not nothing to do, but it's like it's quite fun.
Yeah.
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 And yeah, you go Giant last time, right? Yeah. All days.
Like
Yeah.
in Indian countries, it's like so different though. Cause like I recently went to Australia, then I discovered there's a thing called Asian supermarket, and then
Yeah.
like that's when you can see the variety of stuff they sell is different
Yeah.
compared to like for white
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
White people.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah.
Racist.
Even in Singapore right here, I mean we have the typical market. We also have like one mall that's Yihua, like just selling products from
Chinese stuff.
Yeah, so they have, for example, in a typical supermarket, we have like maybe 3 types of vinegar, like Chinese vinegar. But in those like really specialized market, there are like 10 over type of vinegars. So it's really, you really have the specialist market lah.
Yeah.
I think we should have like immigrants that will open their own market. I think so.
Yeah. They do.
So
Yeah.
They use gold. Yeah. They use this swear.
Who?
You.
No,
I
didn't
think
say
like I heard something wrong.
that wasn't me.
So
Yeah.
you want to ask something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask, right?
Yeah.
Out of all this research, what do you wish to get out of this journey, like in 10 years time, 5 years time?
So wow, like it's a bit far-fetched actually. Yeah. So because like within 2 years I don't know what happened to me, like things like this. So I
What is
want
your
to
intention of starting this research? Yeah, it's quite interesting.
My intention is like to study using this as a first is like it was like a platform for me to study one thing, like platforms, not my platform, like internet platforms, like Amazon, things like their technologies are going into this sort of typologies right now. Yeah, and then they're buying a lot of supermarkets up right now, like I think and also supply chain, like Amazon that bought Whole Food in US is a whole branch of supermarket chain, and then like the way we could understand, like because once it pops out, they have this opportunity to outrun other supermarkets, and then all these supermarkets should be influenced by it to turn away a trends into integrating more technologies. So firstly, it was this sort of forensic investigation I carry on how this thing go into that thing, and also like due to like my father had experience in this, right, I could easily ask him what's happening there, and secondly is like it's also like a sort of a thing, like a situation that I see in more architectural field right now is that I think architecture, I mean overall that do have like a very longevity research. they have it, but it's in the 60s, and he cut short during the 20th century. At the early 21st century, it becomes something that is more fame driven professions. And also another thing is like the thing is like why we lack of research development, why it's so slow, and why we are so integrating is one thing is the lack of research funding in architecture field. First, why? Because architecture tend to be a field that applies science and art, and mostly to art. So research funding that is more proper and more practical ones are mostly go to the scientific field, meaning scientific research. It's not that won't go to art, but instead of funding architects with art funds, right, they might as well fund like fine arts with art funds. It's more rational, because they are doing another proper research on art direction and things like this. So architecture is sort of becomes something that not like, that's why we say architecture is so slow, because we are in the gray area of everything. So what I think is like, this thing is like, if I could start initiative that we could celebrate like the sort of scientific role of it. I mean, a more proper research, right, and more like both. We study both, so we have a bigger chance to get the fund to do it ourselves. And once you have the proper funding, and as you approach to a company, they have more confidence on like whether you are a proper researcher and a proper paper that you want to intervene in the practical terms, right? And thirdly is looking into the events of Brexit and all kinds of politics happening right now, all around the world, especially Brexit, because I was in London for quite some time already. And I look at the way I look at the Brexit is sort of a conundrum between they wanted to celebrate the independence, but they can't let go of the shared economy of everyone. It's like they want both. So what I think is like a lot of countries, and then they also have this conundrum because they're paying much more to other countries that are supporting, like the EU, like other more poor countries. That's why they have this sort of issue. They think they earn more money to support the other countries. And also one thing, if one thing is the British that don't have enough, they don't have, most of the supplies are coming from other countries. This actually become a very interesting topic, So when this pandemic happens, right? Imagine something happens like all the price go up, right? Because of the shipping fee, things like this. I mean, all this politics reasoning that you can stop it to independence is all due to the supply chain that we have. And also fourth thing is that the bigger of the corporation and transnational company it goes, right? The form of power it accepted to us differently in different nation, and how it controls in one terms. Yep. And finally, it goes back to like my interest on contributing to my own country, Malaysia, as well. Yeah, that's the reason of also. If you say what's my 10 years plan from this research is, because ASEAN is gonna be the next superpower in the next 20 years, I think, hopefully, and we have tons of investment from China, and as we know, China already have all these automations and all this technology, and also the way they perform in the market is pretty different from us, despite the web market. But I think Sue will know that because we work on certain projects that's similar with like the Informworks, like the Manus market, things like this. Yeah. So as China goes into like ASEAN country, a lot of things might change very fast in Malaysia as well. So I think it will help contribute to in Malaysia, in the ASEAN context, not just Malaysia probably. I'm afraid there's a Singaporean here. Yeah, might offend them. Yeah. So yeah. So basically, yeah. So it's this. Yeah.
Hi, Jowin. I think you discussed a lot of big corporations and like Tesco and all that.
Yeah.
But like, are you considering like cottage industry? Like those home, like small scale businesses who actually
SMEs.
who can't go into like red tapes created by all these big corporations.
Yeah.
Are you considering that?
Yeah, I mean, all of it I would consider as another category. But right now, my main focus is looking into like the big corporate first. And SME is one thing. Is like it will become something more important because of this decentralizing and localization happening right now. But right now is I want to see how these big corporates are they doing investment on these SMEs, because I think SME will not survive if they do not do any actions, because these corporates should be investing on SMEs instead of them. Now they are buying over more of them instead of investing for its own. I mean, maybe in a different context, I don't know, I'm not sure what is happening in Singapore, but in many Western countries, they are actually quite cunning. They buy off, and even in Korea as well. Then usually buy. If you don't buy, they will just copy it and become another sort of model business they're going to have, and then they just kill you off with it. So I mean, the SME is very important for any country because it's mostly becoming a main income for many countries, right? Yeah. So it will be another category for that, but it will falls under the same research, but profile in a different in a different profile, that we might do a sort of triangulation of data and understand the critical role of it. Why SME are not growing and why are they so expensive? Some of SME products they're selling is way more expensive than the corporates. Like why? I think we should question that role. You know, yeah. Yeah. So where's Joyee?
No.
She's
Have you checked out before? Like, have you checked out before? Like, product placement, especially there's a big study about on like Topshops, H&M, all this on the product placement.
Oh no, I haven't looked very detailed in it yet. Yeah, not yet.
Because there's a very big, huge studies on this about product placement. Because eventually, how all this because it's globalized, right? I mean, H&M, Topshops, Uniqlo. Eventually, all the window designers, they actually have a guideline sent from Sweden or something. So that actually the whole system is following the same products.
Yeah, like the same protocol.
Right? Yeah,
I'll look into that. Thanks, man. Oh, hi.
Okay. Intense. Wow.
No. I mean, it's gonna be fun. Yeah. It's gonna be fun. Yeah.
I think you guys want to move to the third section right now?
Yay!
Okay.
Joyee, yeah.
Nice. I think I can finish in 5 minutes. Done already.
Please don't rush.
Okay. I think for now, I mean until this point, right? I think I kind of appreciate, because I think Hefference in the first part share a lot of the hardware side of an architecture, and then with the second part, and then I think Jowin share a lot of the software side. So it kind of like shows different aspect of the architecture, and I think it's fun. Yeah. And my one is irrelevant one. So.
No lah. Art is important, no?
It's still within the scope.
Yeah, okay.
Boss say not important is scary.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this day boss say not important one is gonna be like
Okay, can you guys see my screen? Seriously, I swear to God. Mine is definitely more light-hearted. So just interrupt me whenever you want. So okay, so today, you guys want to have like a water break or toilet break?
no, it's fine.
Don't need.
Okay, everyone good, huh?
Hit the metal while it's still hot, right?
Well, do I need to present in Singaporean Singlish slang? Of course, you presented in British slang.
Our base should be like in the more Switzerland slang, you know, like the German slang. I think Megan would know better.
Oh my god.
Gabriel.
Okay, before I start, have anyone been to this art fair, Art Basel, or have anyone heard of it before?
Yes.
No. Until you
who's the one that been yes before? You can raise your hand. Except Casey lah. Casey, you definitely know lah. Basically, Art Basel. Basel, the name is actually a place in Switzerland. So it's actually an art fair and it's one of the largest contemporary art fair in the world. So it's actually a for-profit, privately owned art fair. And then it started in Switzerland, of course. So if you have not heard of it, but I think you definitely heard of the banana incident, like the one that they take banana, one go and eat it. Yeah, that happened in Art Basel, Miami Beach there. So Art Basel have 3 places. It's curated 3 times a year. So in Switzerland, in Miami, and also in Hong Kong. So yeah, so these are some of the articles that shows Art Basel. So yeah, some photos. And so
I see you there.
Oh really? Which one? The sculpture dying
No,
one.
I was kidding.
Okay. So I think last year, March, I actually went to Hong Kong and also visited the art fair. I mean, I know nothing much about the industry, but then I think I have some valuable insight to share later. But yeah, let's just go. So this is some of the sculpture that is shown inside. I want to show you guys a video. Not because that this is the best video to show the event, but it's more like there's some point I want to prove. Okay, I think you guys can watch first. Yeah, let me know if you guys can listen to the. Fun.
It's okay lah, no music can, right?
Cannot leh.
I cannot hear the sound. Is there a sound?
And share with music. I mean sound.
Is it not doing it? It's not doing it.
No, cannot hear.
Oh shit. Wait ah.
Yeah.
It's not playing, huh? Let me see if I can.
It's playing, but there's like no sound, I think.
Yeah.
But it's playing okay.
Or we all
So
just
okay,
listen
can-
together and watch together.
Can read the caption can already lah.
Yeah.
Lah.
The subtitle.
Maybe Joyee can make the music from his mouth. Like.
Wow, that's savage, right? He's like, is this odd?
Wow. This is like a Jesus thing.
What the hell?
Is it real?
Whoa.
Oh fuck!
Oh my god.
Looks like the
Not
Patrick
real.
from SpongeBob.
It's a wax thing.
Did someone say SpongeBob?
The Patrick, yeah. The Patrick, yeah. Oh, Libu. I love Libu work.
Oh my god, this reminds me of Money Heist, man. If anyone saw it.
Yeah.
True.
It's made from strings, like normal strings.
What's the white part? It's also string. Oh,
String, and then they form the form.
Oh shit.
Wow.
nice.
Looks like a lot of rubbish.
Wait.
Art, okay.
And this gives you a sense of energy.
Sorry.
Okay. I think the point when I'm showing this video is I want to highlight that. Do you guys realize wait, let me go to my next slide. Yeah. It's more like did you guys realize that there's a lot of daily, I mean, when I was in a fair, right, and then I realized it's very different from how, I mean, made me realize that how we observe art nowadays as compared to the past. Like this is the painting. It's called the Death of Socrates, and I think that's seen it somewhere. And then in the past, that when we go to museum, I mean, of course, there's different art generation and art movement at different times. Then, but it's just that how do we appreciate art from the past in this way, when a painting on the wall and then it has one inherent meaning to something like now a banana on the wall, and then that considered an art. So the transition, it actually happened from this guy. His name is Marcel Duchamp. Not sure if you guys have came across him before. So Marcel Duchamp, like, he's an artist, but it started very early, I think in 1995 or 93. So when that, before that time, right, people still like just painting and then just creating like consider art from just like 2D images. But then, so this guy, he's a very funky, I think this is way even before pop art started. So I think he has this, he come up with this term called ready-mades. Means that, so according to Wikipedia, so ready-mades is simply by choosing a mass-produced object, a daily object, and then you recomposite it, and then you give it a new meaning, a new representation, and then you can call it an art really. So by the time it actually confused the entire world. So because he created a lot of like non-conventional art at the time, which is controversial. So like for example, on the right hand side, he just take a knockoff Mona Lisa painting and he just draw a moustache on it and then call it an art. And then on the left hand side, he just bought a shovel and then hang it on the wall and then call it an art. So later on, people go and analyze the theory of ready-made. This is called theory of ready-made, right? There's 3 important points here. Means that you have I mean, how do you like create an art nowadays, right? Which is quite relevant to nowadays. First, you choose, the choice of an object itself is a creative act already. And then secondly, you cancel the useful function of the object. And then thirdly, the representation of it. So when I read about this theory, right, I think it kind of relevant to whatever I see on the art fair, and also whatever pop culture that we are looking at today. So like I think you guys are familiar with all these artists, right? Like Takashi Murakami, Jeff Koons, Damien Hirst, Kusama Ai Weiwei. I think there are like some good artists that you guys can pay attention and then see if that relevance to that theory. So like this is one of the installation by Cai Guoqiang. And I think Cai Guoqiang, it's quite emerging. He experiment a lot with fireworks, and then he has this film called Tianti. I think you all should go and watch it. So he experiment a lot with firecrackers, and then he has this firecrackers. He has this project, right, where he designed this staircase like firecracker, and then he has the helicopter to fly up, and then he just burned the whole thing, and it's very, very nice. But then again, you look at it, how does this consider as an art, right? It's how you define it, you see. And then this is by Richard Serra.
Oh, love him.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know about him, the sculptural works. And then Jeff Koons, again, using like daily materials like just balloons, and then And this is of course Ai Weiwei. And the sunflower seeds.
Wow.
You guys know about the story behind this project? Like each of the sunflower seeds, right, is actually handcrafted.
Yeah.
So it's I think Ai Weiwei went to a very small village in China, and then in a way when he advocates it, right, he said that he wants to provide a job opportunity because that village is specialized in ceramic works. So so all these are actually ceramic. I don't know ceramics or porcelain already. So they handmade everything and then they hand painted them with inks, and they transported them to Tate Modern. Then of course we all know Osama. And then this is by Oliver. Yeah. This is one of his famous project in 1997. It's called Yellow Room. So it's his experiment with monochromic lights. So monochromic lights is when this light is turned on, you stand inside, you don't see any other colors but the light colors only. So the rest of the color will just turn black and white, gray and white. But when he, I think you guys can watch his films. There's 40 minutes of his interview on Abstract Netflix. So when he want to exhibit this place, right? The museum curator was asking, can I put something inside this room so that you cannot exhibit nothing? And then you want to place a rose. But then he said, no, the point is the light and the color, and the people should focus on the form, not the rose. Yeah, I think it's quite pretty. So from the monochromic light, right, he further experiment with this project called it's the weather project. I can't remember. Yeah, I think it's the weather project. So he created this hemisphere in Tate Modern, this high volume space. And then above the ceiling is all mirror. So this half sun, right, just kept with the ceiling and then it formed a full circle.
It's super famous.
Yeah,
people are having sex. Some people having sex there, you know.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Not much joke. It's serious. Yeah, there are people they're hooking up in Tate Modern when he installed the sun. Yeah, I think I can send you guys the news. It's from the
what I find is that sometimes, I mean, back to that theory, right? If I were to, I don't know, like if we were to out in the nature and then we look at these stones and all these rocks, right? This project is called Riverbed. When you look at this stone, it don't seem like you appreciate that much. But when Oliver, he bringing all this mud, river, water, and stone, right, and then put it into a context. So you mean his choice of object is this, and then he chose to represent it in this situation. It kind of create a sense of contrast, and then you appreciate it more than it is in the nature, you know. Like when you're here, it kind of create a context for you to appreciate. So I just think that it's actually quite relevant to the theory that I just read just now. So this is another project called Climate. So the ice block, it's not ice block. Okay. So this ice block that you see here, right, is getting directly from Antarctica. So it just get this and then it put it on the street, and then it's a climate project. I think he works with UN to show that, I mean, this global warming entire message. But then the thing is, his choice of object by just putting this here rather than creating like from scratch, right? And then it's melting at the same time, you know. So so his message is just clear, and then by just picking the right object and then put it at the right context.
Yes.
I think that it's damn pretty. And then I think there's a video on YouTube where you can see the ice just slowly melt to nothing, and then it turns to nothing, right? It just gives you that sense of chill. And his job as an artist, right? Things done. Yeah. So, after seeing the works of so many great artists, in retrospect, I go back to the banana again. So, I read an article, right? So I think I don't know, it's just my opinion. Like, you can use art to convey a very good message, or you can use art as just a tool of money. You see, like all these art basel, or this painting, or all this pop culture, they actually have a lot of money behind, you know. And then sometimes it really like what the article said, it's like an empire new clothes foisted on the rich people, that if let's say you're a poor people, I mean, or you don't have knowledge, you won't appreciate it as an art already. You don't see the emperor's new clothes anymore. Then and yeah, and then back to that story, right? In the end, someone eat it, right? Yeah. So this is just to show that someone actually eat that banana. And then the banana actually costs for 120K USD.
Oh, damn.
Wait, go back to the slide.
Yeah, which one?
The last
Banana.
one. Yeah, read.
Yeah, sure. And then the fun fact about it is like cause the banana is on the wall, and then even though you spend 120K to board it, and then eventually it will rot, right? But then it's the idea that you bought it worth 120K.
I hope architecture industry also like that. Huh?
Yeah, that's
Not so easy.
It's a certificate that you bought the idea. Win.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions? Although I don't think I actually share anything. I just take a Google image and just post.
I think this one's very powerful, like the nature related one. I mean, I think it's powerful because it sends like a message, like there's a sort of warning that they're trying to convey. Yeah. But you know, sometimes I
it's very
look at
real
art.
time.
Yeah, sometimes I look at art like in museums, I'm like quite sian because like I feel like they're just like putting something there and like coming up with something, you know. And then in a way it kind of makes me enjoy art a little bit less, because I mean, contemporary art over and over again, it gets very like, oh, you have a concept and then I'm trying to understand it, and then oh, there's another concept and then I'm trying to understand it. And yeah, like it just does stuff.
I think that makes sense, because that's also the reason why I decided to share this, because go to the museum, right, especially modern art museum or contemporary art museum, we just stand there, we don't know what the hell is going on. And I mean, other than I just sharing this theory, hope that it does make sense. And also another point I would like to share is like the traditional painting, right? It has one meaning and then conveys to you. But then no, this contemporary arts, right? It really relies. They like to use the viewer's perspective to determine its meaning. Or maybe A, she will interpret it differently. B will interpret it differently. Like, remember the video that I just showed, the very first one? He put a dinosaur skull and then tape it with whatever moon behind it. I can't relate. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. What is your stance about art, guys?
I think artists are very difficult to survive.
Why?
No, I mean, I came in to understand one thing, you know, when I was like, I was studying in London, right? I met a lot of like artist friends. I mean, like, it's like totally different story when it's like the whole media cheated on us a lot of things. Like, if we think it's like we are living in Asia right now, right? So Asia might not be so artsy, fancy sort of appreciation, right? And people might live better, artists might live better in the Western country, right? It's a lot of them are fallacy, you know, a lot of them are not true. So in the Western world, right, it's almost similar as in here, but the difference is they have more educated in terms of arts. but the survivorship on artists, right, is really difficult. So for instance, right, if you need to so there's no full-time job for an artist, same thing, and then you need to produce maybe 10 or 20 free artist work in order for you to make the first name, and then the name is like, it's like just for hire, something like this, you know, like for hire, but you still are like a very low, very barely can survive artist, things like this. But the artists I met, right, is most likely they are performance artists, the one who are in theater. As we all know, it's like the theater industry in the Western world is much more developed than in ASEAN, right? But the way the people operating it, right, is still very sad when you look at your friends. They are working on freelance, right, to design maybe a art piece, a set for an art piece, right? But they won't get paid. Instead, they have to pay for it some more to get in there. So I felt that it's really, I don't know, like one thing is like art is so important, and then the reason why, one thing is like where the last slide where it says like it's like a new sort of King's new clothing, right, catered for rich, right? The thing is like, to be realistic, right, artists that couldn't survive, right, they are most likely have a patrons to fund them, meaning maybe I am the investor of art, Joyee, so I might sort of own her artwork, so I just pay you like 1 million each, so you just keep on developing. But who knows, like there is like tons of artists out there, right, that do have this sort of patrons. Similar to architecture. So architecture, you want to start a firm, right, if you do have like a connection, right, you're basically fucking dead in 5 years, right? It's like things like this. So it's very sad. When I was there, I will look at this sort of things. Like, yes, there's hipsters doing things like this, like doing art sort of, but the reality of hipsters, the definition of hipsters, right, in the West world, right, is very different from the hipster that we know in Bangsar and maybe in Holland Village in Singapore. They are rich hipsters. They are like fake hipster, right? What we call them, because they are rich. Most of them are rich in Bangsar as well. But in Westworld, right, the hipsters, they are most likely are poor. They are most likely like barely surviving. Things
The
like
real
this.
hipsters.
The real hipster.
I think to follow up that
Yeah.
it's more like
Yeah.
because as an artist, right, you're always encouraged to speak your own unique voice, to
Yeah.
your own unique language or style. But the thing is,
Yeah.
the more unique you want to be, the more difficult for people to accept, and then the less people gonna sponsor you or sustain you.
Yeah.
So in a way that the one that really trying to prove themselves is, like you say, are those starving artists. But those who are in the rich hipster in the zone one, right? They are more like following the mainstream or following whatever is already trend already.
They are lucky, I can say. They begin as some of them begin as starving artists. Then after they were lucky, like they hit like not jackpot, but they hit like one patron that really likes them. Yeah, then you get the shit, and then but at the end you become very mainstream, and I think like Marina Abramovich, right? I think she's from like a very rich family.
Really?
Because like okay, this is like facts, like because she is my tutor auntie, one of my tutor's auntie.
Oh.
Yeah.
To give you guys some background on Marina.
Then Abramovich name, right, is a big name in the Slavic. It's like a noble name in like the I forgot where she came from, like the country Slavic. So I don't know, it's like all these they might have a bit of connections to sort of link them back to the circle. I'm not discouraging art industry, but I'm just like give everyone a heads up, the reality of it, right? Even in the West, there's some sort of reality that we need to face. Like I think like, but how can we challenge this? The thing is, Abramovich, she is experimental performance artist, so she get but you know what she did in order to get famous? She just stabbed herself, things like this. So many things, you know.
I like performance with the staring one. So she has this. invite strangers, just sit in front of them, and then she just stare the people in the eye for like a good, I don't know, half an hour. Is it half an hour or like more than that? And then in the end,
I think 1 hour, right?
she cried, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one.
But it's very interesting. Artists, I don't know, like artists. What do you think about artist life? Anyone here?
I think I don't know. It's just my opinion. I think that there is still a distinctions between practicing art in Asian country and Western countries. Like particularly in Malaysia, I think like there's a difference in terms of the level of appreciations towards art. I think my takeaway is that for example, like Malaysia's, we are pretty much still developing countries, and if you turn to the publics, right, they're kind of like more focusing on the economics and the economical sides of the country. So people are more keen toward businesses, properties, and so on. So I mean, it's I would feel like just a minor comparisons between Malaysia and Singapore. So I mean, just moving over to Singapore's like not last year's, there's like quite a huge difference between the artistic sceneries between these two countries. So I guess it's still kind of like it depends the countries, and I don't know, like is there a way that we can strengthen the art scenery?
Pay more tax. Pay more tax.
But can
I think it's much more related to. I think it's much more related to the economic condition of the country and the level. It's because only you have money, then you know you can have the time, luxury, appreciate all these things.
Correct.
Or can I say like starving artists is everywhere, regardless like which country you are in, because it's just the appreciation is higher in developed country. But the appreciation is lower in developing or undeveloped country. But I think generally artists is starving everywhere. I don't know. But yet
architects are starving too.
Architects are starving too.
I think Megan, you live in Germany, you know, like how the artist is like living in the council houses, rely on the support of the government.
I think German have very good support for artists though.
Yeah, man. Only for lessons.
Like places in Ostkreuz and all that, people are living on
East Germany,
support.
Eastern Germany,
I don't see that.
No, I don't know a lot of artists. I'm so sorry. So I'm not really versed on this. I cannot say anything about that.
No comment.
No comment.
But isn't the art scene very strong in Berlin?
Yes, it is. Actually, there's a lot of that kind of like hipster stuff. They're doing a lot of that on their own, I think. And I don't know about the government support, but there's a lot of this kind of tiny hipster corners happening in Berlin. And if I judge it on just like the surface of it, like how it looks like on the surface, it's like rundown as hell, man. Yeah, it's like super rundown. It's like some slum area shit, but it's like hipster as hell, and then like, you know, like very artsy. But it's very, I don't know. I don't think government is supporting a lot, to be honest. Judging by the competition.
So let's say we put that into a context. Let's say Berlin is considered a slum area, and then is it considered a developed country? But the appreciation is still high, right? Even though it's a slum area.
You mean appreciation?
I got nothing to do.
That's true.
Then you don't need to go to UK lah. For what? People don't appreciate you and living cost so high. Just go to Berlin, become an artist, can already.
No. Like, okay. One thing, right? I got insulted is right. Like Asian friends come to London, right? Because I'm staying in like a hipster place. like a lot of, I can show you now. It's like a hipster. It's like Hackney. Well, I stay in Hackney, right? It's like a super hipster, post hipster we call it. So like whenever I brought I just show it. Let me just Google Earth it. Whenever I bring them, right, they will say, "Oh shit, this is like ghetto." I was like, "What the fuck?" You guys decide, okay? It looks like, you know, like
everyone already glamorized how it looks like, you know, in like London, you know, it's like so glamorized.
Yeah, very clean, right?
But everyone think like, oh my god, Berlin is so amazing, but like it's actually super rundown and like
super rundown.
Depends on where you go. I think like different areas.
Go to the west. If you go to the west, it's very they didn't update the. Never mind. They didn't update the map. Hold on, let me just search some photos.
About Jiying and Sue, you guys went to Beijing the other day, and then you guys see the art scene over there. How is it like?
Yeah.
Beijing.
Yeah.
The sudden question, don't know how to answer.
So this is where I stay. This is the place that I stay.
Oh my god, this is so Berlin, man.
Yeah, this is the place I stay.
Oh, this is so Berlin.
Yeah, this is so Berlin.
How to penthouse, yeah. Yeah, this is the place I stay. Something like this, huh? Yeah. Something like this, yeah. And then like this very nice canal, and then you can like actually we go there and have drink every Friday nights. Yeah, and then we have like a bit new buildings as well. But I don't know, like when you bring like
to the market, right? Is it?
Not yeah.
I don't know what is it called.
No, I don't think you went there, Megan. You are at Central St. Martin's. I'm at the East End. Yeah. So like if you bring like a bit like Asian friends, like Malaysian friends, like who just came to London, right? They will have like oh shit, I'm like very dangerous, very dodgy. I was I'll tell them that this is like Bangsa in KL though.
Why do you think it's dangerous?
Don't know. Whenever they see graffiti like this, right, they associate it to the black people. They're quite racist. I think like this, like very pretty, right?
Asian countries in general just don't appreciate art as much because their economic status is like
I think like I don't know. I think like countries like Taiwan. I think their art scenery is quite nice in Taiwan.
Taiwan is also good enough. Thailand.
Yeah. So it's I find like culture itself plays a certain roles on top of economics.
Yeah.
Actually, Beijing was pretty like forward as well in art and architecture. Yeah. They have a lot of happening stuff and events, and they're like they also have like hipster areas, but then it's like not this kind of. I mean, the pictures that you show is like, I mean, they think that it's quite rustic in a way that there's like graffiti, and then the buildings are like, you know, they're like old buildings, but then in Beijing they kind of do it up in a more like futuristic way, which is nice. Yeah.
But when we went to Shanghai, right, they actually like showcase some of the work done by all the Taiwanese, mostly on like videos and stuff. Yeah, so I think somehow they are like connected and they are sharing art.
Oh yeah, that's in an art museum.
Sure, I thought anti-China.
Sorry?
I thought
China is buying their art.
Yeah, they protest in Animal Crossing app. No, because the last time when I went to Taiwan,
arts will unite everyone.
Art will unite everyone.
The last time when I went to Taiwan, then I think they have a lot of 文创区, 对吗? Like when you go, and then the other one is 文创区, and then it seems like all these youngsters, they can just get a store there and just do their own craft, and then not sure it's funded by the government, but they have the freedom to just express and just do, even though like small craft, you know, 有些这种小小玩具啊, like those cushion with the keychain thing. I mean, which which I think it's a good attempt, although it's not like fine art per se, but yeah. But I cannot appreciate that. Yeah, it's different appreciation.
But how do they get the funding to like do their art? The one that
I think the government are quite supportive, maybe.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I think government have to be very supportive, and also the private sector as well. Yeah. Why like everyone's so sad? Can't do art, like so sad.
Because I'm not sure if they have like demands in the market, so they are able to have all these 文创区, and then the government will support. Like Singapore,
yeah, they appreciate.
Yeah, like Singapore, there is appreciation in the society, and then like Hefference, right, just between Malaysia and Singapore, the art scene here is so much more improved with all the exhibition going on, and when you have demand, like 你对城市有要求, right, and then you won't end up having like copying stuff. I remember reading this book saying that there's this building in China. The building looks exactly like a Norman Foster building, but in a fake way. The structures are fake one. So the author.
That's one in Thailand.
Is it? Then
there's a gherkin in Thailand. In Bangkok.
Really?
Yeah, there's a gherkin in Bangkok.
Google it.
Exactly.
Then the author just said, if your city doesn't have demand, right? I mean, as in like no appreciation, and that's what you get. And then I just think it's very sad. Hey. Yay, thanks all. 2 hours.
Very cool. We should do this again.
Yeah, we
can just talk shit.
With you
shit. No, but today was insightful.
Yeah, hope you guys
I was working.
I was work from home.
Okay.
How is Sue working?
Okay.
Fun it's a Japanese firm, right?
Hey dude, I left that firm now.
Now what firm you're in now?
I'm in Studio Goto, which is Jiying's firm.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Do you think at the end of the work from home period, everyone would just decided to work from home? And then
not so
I don't
productive, man.
I don't know, do you guys like working from home?
I would if my room was bigger. If my room was bigger, like seriously, I think I might enjoy it more. But then I think it has to do a lot with your space lah. If you like your space, I mean, if it's feasible, then okay lah.
At the first week, you get not used to it. Like right now, oh shit, I hope I can work from home.
You love it.
So I don't need to see faces.
Yeah, like I want to I'll just turn this Wi-Fi already. I just go, just MIA.
But it's still quite hard, right? Like it's not as productive. Okay.
Yeah, you get
I
this.
don't know, I find it hard to. I mean, like when you're working from home, it's kind of like you have more stress. It's like there's like no on-off buttons between your work life and your private life. So it's like you are on calls for 24 hours, 7 days per week, that kind of thing.
I agree. There's no clear cut-off line. Like
you have to hire a bot. Yeah. To do all the dirty stuff for you. A bot, like the conversation. Yeah.
Automation.
Yeah, a bot.
But you consider like freelancing life. Like this is how actually freelance will feels like.
Yeah, true.
Freelance, I think freelance works, right? They don't have like the income, some of them.
Like another
yeah, seriously, now you know who suffer? The freelancers suffer now actually. Yeah.
Minor jobs. Actually suffer.
Yeah, they don't have savings. A lot of them they are paycheck to paycheck some more. Yeah. So yeah.
Me of one of the popular questions that I've seen throughout Instagram. recently, all the archi page are like saying, "Oh, what can architects and designers do during this pandemic season? How can we do?" Then I was just wondering, so many pages asking the same question, and then I don't know. You guys have any opinion?
What question?
No.
Yeah, what's the question?
I thought it's a statement. It's not a question. It's a statement, right? Yes.
No, it's a question.
My question.
You're asking for like competition entries, right, and stuff.
No, there are a lot of design page asking the question to the public.
What can architects do?
What is the role of a designer or an architect do during this kanjong time?
Nothing. No money, no architect.
Nobody want to build one.
No design. Yeah lah. What the hell?
I mean,
Reasonable.
This period.
Unemployment. Woo!
Yeah.
Paper architect. Lots of paper architect season. All paper architect.
Even that.
But no, do you guys see the new public park that Chris Pratt proposed?
Yeah. No.
The one with the
right?
fingerprint one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Share screen.
And he got shot there in DC.
I saw a comment down there.
He said that. Yeah, he said.
What?
I laughed my head. Like
one people per lane kind of thing.
Yeah, one people per lane.
Yeah.
It's like.
And then it's like, is it for single use? Is it for single time use? Like after pandemic, no use anymore.
I don't think it's gonna happen, man.
Can someone elaborate, please?
It's like a circular plan, and then.
Megan, just show up. Megan, just show.
Oh, I'm looking at it.
By a planter.
Joey, just go to the Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, just go to Chris Pratt's Instagram. I have too much shit on my screen now.
I'm waiting for Patrick Schumacher to come out and say.
It's a retaliation.
There you go. Say, I told you guys, don't need private all the space.
Oh, okay. The park is shaped by social distancing guideline.
I think China will build it. China will try to build it.
Oh, I think if they build it, all the people will climb over the bush. I don't know. I just feel like it's gonna happen, man.
But just imagine kids running around and playing and.
Yeah.
We got lost.
You see, social distancing, right? If you make a park so beautiful, right, doesn't make sense because everybody go there and take picture.
Yeah.
It's no longer, it's so Instagrammable that everyone go there and take picture, and they should make it as ugly as possible. Like the taman in Malaysia.
You design a park and then you make a gate and you do it together.
Yeah.
Speaking of park, Sekshan has been sharing a lot of gardening tips on Instagram.
Oh my god, yeah.
Is it just me as a Malaysian that I'm not following Seksan or Kevin Low?
I also not following Seksan.
I'm not following their Instagram and things like this.
Is it?
Calvin is on Instagram, but he posts shit on Facebook. But Seksan has.
Yeah.
What? Do you have any?
Seksan is like friends on Facebook, yeah. But I didn't follow Instagram.
But you see his like tips on Facebook also, right? It's not just Instagram, it's both.
Yeah, Facebook lah. Yeah, I saw the tips on Facebook.
Yeah.
But yeah,
interesting.
I'm just waiting for Kevin Mark to come out again to say something.
Yeah, right. I'm like expecting
drama.
I'm waiting for it.
They are like they are like langgung. They are like couple. They are like couple like that. Don't do it in my backyard. Yeah.
Kevin haven't come yet.
Alright, guys. I think we can call it a night already. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, boss.
Thank you.
boss.
This is my bank. This is my bank account. Remember the bank in?
Can. I will. You know how much I sacrificed for my sharing session. Hey, but actually, I bought the Zoom meeting license though.
Huh? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that how you can hold the meeting?
Yeah, also cause the first.
I think there's a time limit if it's a free account.
It's for 3 days, but it's not that.
Oh, no wonder.
It's
Wow.
17.
So which
That's why it's boss.
Yeah, well, our company also don't have this license.
45 minutes.
But Joyee has this license.
Joyee Lee Studio, okay? So if let's say next week I'm gonna invite another speakers, will you guys interested to join as well?
Yeah.
Sure.
Invite Kevin, no.
Yeah.
And Sexan together, side by side. So every time Sexan says something, what do you think, Kevin?
Wow, we all cannot talk, they all fight only.
We had popcorn ready. It's like,
So I'll just mute everyone and then I'll just say, so what do you think, Sexan? And what do you think, Kevin? Yeah.
So you
I
just
think we can start in the morning.
They
Start in the morning.
It's not gonna
How
take
do
2
you-
hours.
It's a marathon
many-
thing.
how many of you agree?
Okay.
Just got to vote and pick a side at the end of
We'll pick a side.
Then
Yeah.
if I really manage to invite 2 of them, I need to take tickets already. Confirm 一定有钱。要钱，要1块钱进来看戏。
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
Have any friends who want to share? Can just let me know. Was thinking about sharing other topics like more interesting like even fashion. So fashion is a good craft to talk about also, and even more. I mean, sharing about fashion.
Oh, fashion. Wow, fashion.
Actually, fashion. Interesting topic to talk about as well, and also about materials. I was thinking.
Ooh, and also about what?
Materials.
Is my
Material.
speaker that bad?
Yeah.
No lah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone said yes. Okay.
Okay, I'll self invite again. All right.